Hi guys. In this short lesson, I want to talk a little bit about in-text citations. You guys learned a little bit about in-text citations probably a couple weeks ago. If you're in my 1301 class, in my 1302 class, you probably learned it in 1301. Or if you're in my literature class, you learned it in 1301. I wanted to refresh how to do in-text citations because this is how you tell the reader, which is more than likely your professor or me, um, that this is where you got the information. Now, I'm starting with the works cited page here. And if you don't know how to do a works cited page, please watch the lesson on how to do the works cited page because it's extremely important. But I'm starting with the works cited page here in this example. And again, this is an example of a 1301 paper. This again works with with my 1302 papers, my literature papers, or if you're in a class where MLA is the format that you're using for a research paper. So the reason why I'm starting with works cited is that, and starting with works cited and talking about in-text citation is that you've got to do your works cited first, because the works cited is going to tell you how you're actually going to cite your sources inside of your paper. Um, it's um, it's very, I think sometimes students have difficulties trying to understand how these two are very related. um, how you cite something here is how is going to determine how you're going to cite it in the paper, and this piece, the works cited, and the in-text citation talk to each other. So let me show you how that works here. I'm going to go through this paper and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm going to start with the first page here of this wonderful paper. And so you'll see here that the student here did an in-text citation here. So I'm going to talk you through kind of the big pieces here and then why the word motive is in quotations in this um, in-text citation. So an in-text citation will have parentheses around it. Old school, it used to be called parenthetical documentation, which means there were parentheses around it, which means this is why it has parentheses around it. It's now called in-text citation because it's in the text of the research paper. So just interesting trivia to win Jeopardy one day. So we are looking at the in-text citation here, and there will always be parentheses around the in-text citation, and the in-text citation is inside of the sentence, which means there is a period right at the end. So the period does not go here, it does not go there. The period goes at the end, which means your in-text citation goes at the end of the sentence. That means you're using something in the sentence that comes from a different source. It is not your idea. It is not your thoughts. You are either quoting something that comes from a source, or you're summarizing or paraphrasing something that comes from another source. And I'm saying that because it is very easy to plagiarize during this part of your research paper. You do not want to do that because plagiarism is an automatic 0 in my class. So if this is something that you are summarizing or paraphrasing, if you are taking someone else's ideas and thoughts and putting them in your own words, that is paraphrasing, that is summarizing, right? Then you need to put an in-text citation there. If it is common knowledge, like the sky is blue, 2 plus 2 equals 4, the first of the month is the beginning of the month, something that's very common knowledge. Most people on the planet know it and don't have to look it up, then that you do not have to cite. So then you're probably wondering why the word motive is here with the quotation marks. So let's go back to the works cited page and look for the word motive in quotations here. So that first in-text citation relates to this source, right? Now, if you saw the last video or the video on how to do the works cited, you understand that there is no author here And if there's no author, you move on to the next thing, which is the title of the source. And so you want to move on to the title of the source after that. And so your in-text citation is usually either the last name or the page number. In this case, there is no page number here because this is from Credo Reference, which is in our databases, so there is no page number. So you're just going to use motive. You're going to put it in quotations because it is in quotations in your works cited page. And then you'll put parentheses around it. So that's how that works. So let's look at it again. Scroll up here. Oh, let me scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Here it is, motive. So we know that this particular sentence has information. Let me highlight this for you. This particular sentence has information that comes from that source that was found in the works cited page. You see how how I say the in-text citation is related to the works cited page. Let's look at another example here. Let's look at this one. So this is the last name here, Koenig, and the source here is Serial. And this is an interesting one because there's no page numbers. It's easier with page numbers. So apparently we're doing all the hard stuff first. So let's go back to the works cited page and see what source this is. So we're going to go down to the works cited page, Koenig, Serial, and it's right here. She's using the actual Serial podcast. How do I know? Well, if you watch the video with about the doing the works cited, we know that these dashes are actually about Sarah Koenig. So if you have more than one piece written by the same person or with the same person as this author here or the person who created it, you can actually put dashes here, and this all says it's the same person. So I know that she is using Serial for here. So she shortened Serial Podcast here because the name of the podcast is actually Serial. So she used the last name and the first item here. So if she used something from like the cell tower map, she's going to put Koning cell tower. She's going to shorten it here so it's not long. So just the first couple of words or the first word tells me as someone who's grading and someone who's reading her work that this is where she got the information. Again, if she's going to use something from the timeline, she'll use Koning and then timelines. All right, so let's look at another example and let's look at a typical example. We've seen a couple of examples here that are kind of um, difficult, not difficult, but a little out of the norm. But let's look at this one, which is very, very typical for in-text citation. You have the parentheses, of course, everything's in parentheses, and then you have the period at the end. So again, your in-text citation is at the end of that sentence. And we have the last name of the person who wrote the piece that she is citing, and then she has the page number where you see that information, right? And so we scroll down, we see Hammer 38. We scroll down and we see that she has used Hammer, and Hammer relates to Julianne Hammer, and she wrote a piece called Marriage in American Muslim Communities. She got this from the EBSCO database. It really should say Academic Search Complete here. She gave us a DOI to show us where it is, and this particular article has page numbers because this is in a journal called Religion Campus, volume 9, number 2, and it's on page 35 through 44 of this particular journal. And she found this particular information on page 38, which is between here. See how that works? That's how you know that the in-text citation relates to the works cited page, which is why you need to do the works cited page first, so you understand how you're going to cite in the um, research paper. Again, here we are. Last name, page number. What if there's no page number? More likely or may not be page number depending on what your research is. If you are using databases or if you're using things from Google, more than likely there may not be actual page numbers. There may be page numbers if you use the database because you may go into a journal. But if you find an article, say like at the Baltimore Sun, or you find an article, the Houston Chronicle, or the New York Times, you have a New York Times subscription, so you may find something there, right? So you can still use that. You're just not going to have page numbers. So, um, for example, let's use this. Loftus, Elizabeth F. False Memory, Encyclopedia of Cognitive Science, which this particular student found in Credo reference. There is no page number here. So if you're going to use this, let me just do a search for Loftus. Let's see how she used it here. There you go. If there is no page number, there you don't have anything to put there, so you're literally just going to put the last name. Again, this tells me, as someone who is grading and someone who is looking for the research, and yes, I do check your sources, by the way, that you found the information in this sentence or paragraph or wherever, in Loftless. And so I just go back to your works cited and see what Loftus is. All right. I hope this actually helped you to do wonderful, um, your wonderful in-text citations. They're great. It's great stuff in text citations, because you don't have to write long things. You can literally just write a last name. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you need any more help.